now that the right has gotten real fucking quiet, y'all tried to start a civil war, like, yesterday. Now you're real fucking quiet. You guys tried to start a race war. You were calling for the death of, like, all liberals. Thousands of people got death threats. Bomb threats were called into so many places. Like yesterday, and y'all are acting like you just fucking forgot. That's the kind of shit terrorists do. To terrorize people. And y'all just showed how violent and hateful you are while screaming how violent and hateful the left is. And then y'all realized you were looking in the fucking mirror. And now you're real fucking quiet. Pepperidge Farms remembers. And I'm not gonna let you forget, you tried to start a civil war through violence based on your hatred. White men fight back. White men fight back. How are you guys feeling now? You're so quiet. How are you guys feeling now? Because it just sounds like you ran out of ways to spin this. Can I get a fucking apology from all the people that wanted me dead 24 hours ago? Maybe? Because fuck you.
Well, guys, there's a cold rain that falls all around me, and there's a cold rain that falls on the American consciousness, this great democracy. Earlier today, Trump engaged in the greatest attack on the First Amendment in our entire history. And just now, ominously, he declared Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. Now, what he's really doing is trying to designate anyone who's anti-fascist, because that's what that word means, as a terrorist. He says when someone's a terrorist, he can use lethal military force against them, like he's doing by extrajudicially and unlawfully killing people in fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela. And if he's doing that to Americans, he's trying to control our thought and control our political speech by declaring anyone who disagrees with him as a terrorist. This is a predicate to mass repressions. There's no legal basis to designate a domestic organization in this way or a domestic person. It is only in the law for foreigners. He's making things up as he goes along so he can destroy our country. We have crossed 2 huge red lines today. This is the fight of our lives, and we're in it. Stay tuned here.
Did you know that Donald Trump wanted to stop Native Americans from opening casinos back in the early 90s? So his plan was to make Native Americans actually take blood tests. That way, they could prove that they had true Native American blood.
Is this you discussing Indian blood? We're going to judge people by whether they have Indian blood, whether they're qualified to run a gaming casino or not?
That probably is me, absolutely. Because I'll tell you what, if you look at some of the reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved, I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like to Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians, and a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut, and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
Depends whether or not you're approving it, sir.
No, it's not a question whether I'm approving it. It's not a question whether I'm approving it. Mr. Trump, you know in the history of this country where we've heard this discussion before, they don't look Jewish to me.
Oh, really?
They don't look Indian to me. They don't look Italian to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a test for whether people could go into business or not go into business, whether they could get a bank loan. You're too black, you're not black enough.
I came across a Trumper who was begging Donald Trump to declare civil war so that he and his buddies could go door to door, drag people out of their homes, and clean the streets. And you know what's funny? When you go to his page, you know what his bio says? I bet you do. Yeah, it says, follower of Christ, trying to get closer to God every day. This is why we don't respect people like this. Jesus Christ said to turn the other cheek. And here you are, when something happens, your first call is for violence, is for blood, is for payback. vengeance. That doesn't sound like a follower of Christ to me. We have zero respect because you cannot tell me you are a follower of Christ, getting closer to God, and then wanting to systematically go door to door, drag people from their homes and pow them away. That is not, that I don't understand how we got here as a society. I don't understand how we get back from here as a society, because you have people like this roaming the streets, begging to do harm to their fellow citizen. People that are innocent, that haven't done anything. They want to go door to door and hunt people down, but yet proclaim their faith and their love in the name of Jesus. Maggot logic.
Hey Alexa, play the 2025 version of If We Quit Testing for COVID, the numbers won't go up. Ah, yes, perfect timing. Quietly deleting something that shows the opposite of what they are yelling. Look over here and listen to my rants so I can delete contradictory evidence over here. Pay attention to me, not over there. Now, I'm not saying there is not violence on the left. I'm just saying, how are we all snowflakes need to safe space? At the same time, we are all violent militants out for conservative blood. How is it that the DOJ concluded overwhelmingly the majority of political violence is on the right, but when they decided that the snowflakes were actually the terrorists, that study was just quietly deleted? How is it I'm the bloodthirsty one when people like this exist?
Mr. President, I implore you, call for a civil war. Call for a civil war and let us do our thing. Let us go door to door, street by street, and clean this country.
I know. He doesn't represent everyone on the right, but when it's someone on the left, then they represent everyone on the left. One person on the right says or does something, well, that's just an extremist, a lone wolf, mental illness. Actually, he was a super duper secret lefty. But if one person on the left says or does something, well, then it's everyone on the left, me included. I'm the problem. Being told that retribution is coming my way for the disgusting things I do, when all I'm doing is trying to remember if we got tea bags at home.
They clearly want a civil war. They forgot what we did to the Confederates. They forgot. They really forget. Because these guys, they have a short memory of history. Yes, and that's why Trump is defunding education. So the Charlie Kirk shooting incident, which was caused by one of them, it has sparked mixed reactions among the conservatives. They are baying for the Democrats' blood. We didn't mark your boy. We didn't. No, we didn't. Oh yeah, we had no reason to. So, when they claim that Democrats are the snowflakes, no, you aren't. We are not capable of starting a civil war to prove our point. We are not.
The world is witnessing the death of America, not from an outside force, but from a low-level con man, a pathological liar, a convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist that also inherited $400 million at birth and still managed to go bankrupt 6 times. Yet he's convinced millions of Americans that he's their savior, that he's this great deal maker, that he's this great leader. It's almost, if it was a movie, we would go see it and we would think it was completely unrealistic. We would think enough people would rise up to stop him, just as we believed the Germans would do that before Hitler seized control of the country and murdered 6 million Jews. You guys, this is happening right now, and we are running out of time fast. Let's look at the facts. You think I'm exaggerating? He's got the courts locked up. He's got the judges terrified. He's got the media terrified. He's suing 60 Minutes right now. That's going to set a precedent if he wins to shut down the media. You won't have objective media anymore. Look what he's done with some of the people in the media. Joe Scarborough went down and kissed the ring for Trump because he's terrified of him. Bill Maher just did it last week. He went to dinner with Donald Trump and talked about how great of a guy he was and how nice he was at dinner. He's terrified of Trump, and so he's basically given up. And
can someone please explain to me why we're not talking about the flag that Pete Hegseth is using as a pocket square in this photo? This was Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery when he was giving his speech as Secretary of Defense. And for those who don't know, that same flag is used by members of Patriot Front when they go marching. They have their own variation, and then they have the original Betsy Ross flag too. Patriot Front has been the reason for a boycott against U-Haul because recently 3 Patriot Front members rented cargo vans to transport over 100 members of their organization to Kansas City for a march. Patriot Front is a white nationalist group, so tell me why Pete Hegseth is wearing a symbol used by white nationalist groups in his pocket on Memorial Day at Arlington.
I don't for a second actually believe that Tyler Robinson had a trans partner, because the source is an unnamed source at the FBI, which is run by Kash Patel, and which has shown constant ineptitude and incompetence for the past several months. But even if he had a trans partner, this does not in any way, shape, or form mean that he would have been a liberal. And to think otherwise demonstrates just how little conservatives understand of trans people, as well as of left-wing ideology and right-wing extremism. There are alt-right trans individuals. There are alt-right members of the LGBTQ. Heck, the current vice president is in the position he is in because of a gay man who is more or less a fascist named Peter Thiel. The idea that individuals would support ideologies that are inherently opposed to their very existence has never stopped them from doing it in the past. And it's still no different today. So I'm going to be skeptical of the claim that he had a trans roommate and partner until we get official documents detailing this. But even if he did, that in no way, shape, or form validates the idea that he was a leftist, just off of that.
Imagine what happens when your kid gets sick and you want to take them to the emergency room or the urgent care, or you're concerned about a cough they have, or maybe they come down with something, and now all of a sudden you can't go to the hospital because I got to tell you, doctors aren't going to just go into work during a civil war. Maybe some will. Maybe some hospitals will be open, but keep in mind they're going to be running off generators using fuel that probably they can't get anyway. You know, this whole talking on the internet thing and me recording a video, that's gone. I mean, if you think you're going to have access to the internet, that the fiber lines are going to keep coming, and that, you know, the repair folks are going to come out and fix it when that gets broken, that's not going to happen. So now all of a sudden, for so many people that beg for civil war, that have their community based on the internet, they're going to be cut off from that community anyway. So you have people that are going to drop from not having the medicine they need. You're going to have all your creature comforts gone. And now what are you left with? You're left with the hope. The hope that you might be able to survive a fight against your fellow Americans. Because why? You didn't like their view on transgenders. Or because you didn't like that Cracker Barrel changed its name or changed its signage. You don't like the fact that, I don't know, all these different things you don't agree with. Maybe the tax rates are too high. Maybe they're too low. All of that pales in comparison to the discomfort and pure horror of what a civil war would bring. And guess what? At the end of all of it, let's even say your side wins. Well, what are you going to get? Well, the rest of your life is going to be spent trying to rebuild what you had before the civil war you incited came. Maybe your kids will survive. I hope. You're going to know a lot of people that don't. And so ultimately, the differences that we have, that we think are just so big that we have to fight and kill each other, they're not that big. In fact, they're perfectly set for a democracy, for a place where people can disagree and fight their battles, but fight it at the ballot box or fight it in the Capitol. Not through gunpoint. Not through killing. Not through murder. The people that are pushing this either don't know what they're saying or they're lonely and looking for meaning, and this is it. Let's not fall into that trap. There won't be a civil war in this country because we're not going to let that happen. Because ultimately, at the end, the cost will far outweigh any perceived benefit. And by the way, by the end of that war, you won't care about the issues that you get so irate about today. Oh yeah, Fox News is not going to be on TV either, so you'll have a little detox. Anyway, everybody, right, left, center, let's lay off the Civil War talk. We can talk about the people that are talking about it.
Donald J. Trump, J stands for either Jesus or John the Baptist. Yeah, Donald John Trump, John the Baptist. So Donald Trump is God sent. Donald Trump was sent by the Messiah to pave the way for the Messiah, to show Americans the way. And how is he showing Americans the way? He has taken control of the media. So every morning, you'll be receiving state propaganda like you are in North Korea. You know, in North Korea, I see these videos, every morning, they wake up to propaganda. The king is good, the king is well, the king praise the king. That's how it's going. Republicans, as I've seen from the rhetoric, they also want to start a civil war. They are not planning on leaving power anytime soon. They are not planning. In 2020, after Donald Trump lost the elections, what happened? It was chaos, handing over power. And at the time, he had no tight grip of the government. But at the moment, he has a tight grip of the government. He has the full force of the Senate. He has the full force of the House. He has full force of the Supreme Court. He has full force of his vice president. He has the full force of the billionaires. He has full indestructible force of Project 2025. Focus.
They literally chiseled the word defense off the wall of the Pentagon today and are going to replace it with the word war. Secretary of War, the War Department. Here's Pete on Truth Social with his new handle, Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. We are the War Department. And they have this whole video showing a montage of all the wars we've been in, because who doesn't want to go back to the fucking good old days when we had guys in trenches firing rifles at each other? Perfect. I just want to know, MAGA, didn't you guys vote for the No New Wars president? Wasn't this your guy?
I loudly pledged a new approach. Great nations do not fight endless wars.
I'm going to need somebody from MAGA to go ahead and explain to me how this is a good thing, because I know they're going to have some mental gymnastics. They'll accept anything. Jobs numbers down by to a third of what they should have been this month. That's somebody else's fault, right? Now we're the Department of War. Please explain it to me like I'm 5.
Hey, what's up, America? We have some fantastic news from Donald Trump about Antifa. Yes, the unorganized group Antifa has now been declared a terrorist organization by Donald Trump. Oh my fucking God, that is the best news on earth. That means we all have a lot of work to do. Everybody knows where to find Antifa online, right? I sure do. I've been watching them for a great deal of time, and I know where they all reside. I cannot wait to make this fucking happen. And I think everybody out there should be involved in a little bit of homework over the next week or two. And that homework is going and finding the Antifa organizations or Antifa websites or pages of any kind. Turn those over to the FBI, DOJ, whatever you can find. So good it is fucking fattening. Soon as I heard the news, I gained 5 fucking pounds. It was so good. Wondering if there's a cash reward for any of that. Can you imagine if there was a cash reward? I mean, I wonder what happens if you bring in a terrorist to the government. I'm sure they would be indefinitely grateful, right? Sounds like that's what they're suggesting here. I think I like that suggestion. I think a lot of you other people out there would like that suggestion as well, particularly if you're a patriot or a veteran. Because remember what they all tried to do to you, right? That's right. Let's go do some homework.
Okay, so apparently at McDonald Trump's big speech to the military the other day, the one at Fort Bragg, commanders were literally ordered to handpick soldiers who were physically fit, presentable, and most importantly, pro-Trump. They wanted people who would look good on camera cheering him on. Like we're casting extras for a fucking dictator's promo video. And it doesn't stop there. These weren't just soldiers showing up to be respectful. They were in uniform, actively booing elected officials McDonald Trump doesn't like California's governor and the mayor of LA, and cheering every time he attacked Biden or the press. Fuck what you believe. This is not normal military behavior. This is straight up propaganda. And it gets worse because there were pop-up vendors on base selling MAGA chain necklaces and literal white privilege cards on a military installation during a federal event. Like, what in the actual hell are we doing, guys? This isn't just cringe, it's dangerous. The U.S. military is supposed to stay politically neutral. This is not some optional guideline, it's a fundamental part of our democracy. The military doesn't pledge allegiance to a man, they swear an oath to the Constitution. But here we are, handpicking troops based on political loyalty, letting them cheer for one party in uniform, and selling racist gag merch on government property. This is literally some North Korea Putin level bullshit, and it's not just some random accident. This is a loyalty test. Trump's people are seeing what they can get away with, how far they can push, and whether the public just shrugs it off or not. And if we do, if nobody stands up and says, this is not okay, it's only going to get worse. This isn't about patriotism. It's not about law and order. It's about building a political army that looks loyal on camera and silences the rest. So no, you don't have to be a Democrat or a liberal or even anti-Trump to find this disturbing, people. You just have to give a damn about democracy or the republic, whatever you want to call it, because if we let this slide, we're not the country we think that we are anymore. Share this, please, because people need to know what's actually happening. You can't fight back if you don't even know what you're up against.
1 year is not over, and we have seen what Trump has been able to build. He has almost 3.5 years remaining, 3 and some 4 months remaining. What he is building at the moment, the next president cannot undo even with 1,000 executive powers, executive orders. He won't. He won't. Unless we have a house in place come 2026. Unless, of which I mean it's highly likely because there is no president who has ever won the house since World War II. There's no sitting president who has ever won the house since World War II, I believe. But if I'm wrong, correct me. So the only guardrails we have against Donald Trump is in 2026 midterm elections. Those are the only guardrails we will place against Donald Trump. And if in 2026 we don't succeed, let's forget about saving this country. Let's forget. It will be over. In 2026, if we don't succeed in the House and the Senate, it will be over for our country. That's what is at stake. Mexico and Canada, the other day, they were having this session, this meeting. They are sidelining US. China, instead of backing down against Trump's tariff, it's escalating. The war in Ukraine is entering another phase. Do you think that Trump has any motivation to end this war? He can end the Israeli war, but you saw what happened. They bombed Qatar. He can end the Ukrainian war, but he has no incentive to do so. He can stop the tariffs and find a solution to countering China's trade superiority. But he can't because he has no incentive to do so. He wants to keep these suckers in play until the midterms are over and maybe until maybe he gets out of power. To ensure that the section he brings to this country is so immense that it will take almost a decade or 2 decades to restructure back. Yes, and believe me, even the next Republican president will not take this Trump stance. He will backroll on some. True.